Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. I am Whitney Richardson, the Illinois Power Agency's Legislative Affairs Manager. We're really glad to have you here today for the first session in the new IPA Summer School Series. It's an educational webinar series for legislators, government leaders, and staff to learn more about programs and initiatives pertinent to your work as legislators and point persons for constituents across the state. We designed this series to first bridge a gap in understanding of the IPA's work and its relevance to your constituencies and roles. Second, help you develop your knowledge of existing state solar incentive programs and consumer protections so you can communicate about these with your constituencies and navigate related casework with increased ease. Third, tell you more about our efforts to achieve statutory clean energy and equity goals. And fourth, provide a forum for you to ask us questions and let us know what you're interested in. This year's IPA Summer School will occur in 4 parts. Today, we'll discuss the 2 solar incentive programs administered by the IPA. Next month, we'll do a deeper dive into the consumer protections built into both solar incentive programs. In September, session 3 will cover the equity initiatives that make up part of our work in the clean energy transition. In session 4, we'll discuss progress towards state clean energy goals. I will turn it over to Brian to introduce you to the Illinois Power Agency.
Great. Thanks so much, Whitney. Brian Granahan, I'm the director of the Illinois Power Agency. Can you hear me okay, Whitney? Is everything good with volume?
Yes, you sound great.
Great. So just wanted to give a brief overview of what the IPA is and also what this series is. And I want to make sure to underscore that this series is not intended to cover everything that the IPA does. Number one, we just tried to kind of make it aligned with those areas where we're receiving a lot of questions from legislative offices and where we felt like it would be most beneficial to put together a series that provided some basics back so that you can better handle things like inquiries from constituents or answer questions that you might receive. And the second is we have other series as well that cover individual topics in deeper detail. So I want to put a plug in for our Power Hour series. If you go to the IPA's website at www.illinois.gov/IPA, and you look at some of the resources there, you'll see that we've done a lot of different webinars and papers that are deeper dives on different topics that might be of interest. So I want to put a plug in there for that series. In terms of what the IPA is, so we're responsible for implementation of the state's renewable portfolio standard, which is state policy that we have to derive a certain percentage of energy from renewable energy. And one of the ways that we do that is through solar incentive programs like the Illinois Shines program and the Illinois Solar for All program. And that's going to be the topic of today's discussion. Our hope is just to provide you with some basics back about what those programs are, how your constituents can take advantage of them, and give you some working knowledge that hopefully helps you as inquiries come in. We do a lot of other things too, though. The IPA was set up in 2007 primarily to conduct energy procurements to meet the requirements of default supply customers of Ameren, Illinois, and ComEd to an alternative supplier. So they're basically residential and small commercial customers exclusively. And then one place where we get a lot of questions is what's different between the IPA and the ICC. And I think the best way to think about this is that the IPA is an agency that's conducting planning and procurement processes, not exclusively, because some of the work that we do on consumer protection in the solar space almost looks a little different than planning and procurement. It looks almost more regulatory in nature, even if we're really just enforcing program participation requirements. And the ICC, by contrast, is a place that's a regulatory agency that has a quasi-adjudicatory capacity. So they're a bit different. The IPA will develop procurement plans, file them with the ICC, and litigate them before the ICC. Then the ICC will issue a final administrative order, basically providing guidance back on what needs to be done. The ICC also does some planning and implementation itself, so it's not like it's a perfect distinction, but hopefully that's a useful distinction. So just wanted to provide that overview, say hello to everyone, and we'll go ahead and get into the meat of the presentation now. I'll turn it back over to Whitney.
Thanks so much, Brian. So today's session is an educational forum, and the presentation portion will be recorded for future use. The presentation does not represent a legal interpretation. It will focus on the IPA's 2 solar incentive programs, Illinois Shines and Illinois Solar for All, and how constituents can participate in these programs. Our session today will run for no more than 45 minutes. We'll first introduce you to the 2 different programs, talking about the similarities and differences between the 2, and then we'll do a deeper dive into each program. We'll cover best practices for going solar in general to help constituents make the best, most informed decisions about which program is right for them. And we'll provide a brief overview of the incentive structure associated with both programs. We'll end today's session with time reserved for a general question and answer related to today's program. This portion of the session will not be recorded. And due to time constraints, we would be happy to circle back with anyone who has more specific detailed questions. Following today's session, you'll receive a variety of materials to help communicate about these programs with your constituents, including copy about the programs you can use to post on your websites, newsletters, and social media, info sheets on both programs, and an info sheet on the incentive structure associated with the programs. I'll also share the slides and recording of the presentation with all registrants. I'd now like to introduce you to the main speakers for today's program. You've already heard from Brian Granahan, the director of the Illinois Power Agency. Prior to assuming IPA's director role, he served as the agency's chief legal counsel. You will likely hear from Brian again during the question and answer portion of today's program. Our main speakers for the presentation of today's program will be Audrey Steinbach, Senior Program Manager for the Illinois Shines program, who is responsible for that program's day-to-day management. You will also hear from Jennifer Schmidt, who's the Senior Program Manager for the IPA's Illinois Solar for All program. She is responsible for the day-to-day management of that program. I will now turn the floor over to Audrey to begin today's presentation.
Thanks so much, Whitney, and welcome everyone. So as many of you likely know, Illinois has a goal to achieve 100% clean energy by 2050. The two state solar incentive programs administered by the IPA exist to help Illinois reach that goal. So Whitney already mentioned these already. They are called Illinois Shines and Illinois Solar for All. So both the Illinois Shines program, which is statutorily known as the Adjustable Block Program, and the Illinois Solar for All programs were developed following the passage of the Future Energy Jobs Act, or FEJA, as some of you might have heard it be called, in December of 2016, and were launched in 2019 after being developed. Both programs then were expanded under the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, or CEJA, which was passed in 2021. So there are a few reasons why solar is slated to play a central role in the clean energy transition. So I'm going to spend a little bit talking about some of the benefits of solar development and installing solar. So not only does installing solar energy really reduce reliance on fossil fuels, which are known as the primary drivers of climate change, but it also really improves air quality and related health issues linked to poor air quality. Also, another benefit is that going solar can save consumers money because you can begin generating enough electricity on site to satisfy your electricity needs. And by reducing your need to pull electricity from the grid, you can help shield yourself from rising energy costs. Another benefit is that solar also increases homeowners' property value. And in Illinois, there are actually statutory protections to shield owners from paying increased property taxes on increased home values linked to going solar. So the growth of the solar industry in the state that is really spurred by these two programs' existence also creates more local jobs in the growing clean energy economy in the state. So those are a lot of other benefits aside from meeting our clean energy goals. Okay, so before going into the real specific components of each of these programs, I want to note some similarities between both the Illinois Shines and the Illinois Solar for All solar incentive programs. First, both Illinois Shines and Illinois Solar for All are state solar incentive programs administered by the IPA, and they really support solar project development in the state. Additionally, both programs have pathways for participants to either install solar on site on their property through projects that are called distributed generation projects, or participants can subscribe to a community solar project, where a participant subscribes to a portion of a much larger off-site solar project based on their electricity needs. Both of these options make it so that solar is available to all Illinoisans, even those that don't own their own roof or can't install solar on site. Third, both programs are managed by third-party program administrators who oversee the really day-to-day operations of the programs and application review. So most customer interactions with each program are usually going to be with the respective program administrator for each program. The Illinois Shines program administrator is a company called Energy Solutions, which is a clean energy consultancy and implementation firm that has experience successfully implementing distributed generation and community solar programs in other states like California and Oregon. The Illinois Solar for All program administrator, Elevate, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that works nationally and is headquartered in Chicago. Elevate designs and implements programs that reduce costs, protect people and the environment, and ensure the benefits of clean and efficient energy use reach those who need it the most. And in addition to acting as Illinois Solar for All's program administrator, Elevate runs programs for income eligible customers linked to water efficiency and savings, building electrification, lead abatement, and many other great programs such as that. And then lastly here, participation in both of these programs is handled through approved vendors, which are solar companies who are registered and approved with the programs and agree to comply with all of the program requirements that the IPA has designed, as well as our strong consumer protection standards. Okay, so kind of separating both of these programs out a little bit more and focusing on them a little bit more individually. The main differentiating factor between the two solar incentive programs is the distinct audiences served by each program. The Illinois Shines program serves all Illinois residents, commercial and industrial customers, as well as public schools that are looking to install solar or subscribe to a community solar project. On the vendor side for Illinois Shines, eligible companies can register as equity eligible contractors with the program. And this provides an avenue for companies owned by people representing groups that are traditionally not represented in the renewable sector, such as those that are formerly incarcerated or graduates of the foster care system, to have a participation opportunity in this program as the renewables sector in the state grows. So while Illinois Shines is kind of the more broad solar incentive program in terms of audience, the Illinois Solar for All program is more focused and is meant to serve income eligible households, both renters and homeowners, as well as nonprofit organizations and public entities located in environmental justice or income eligible communities. So those are the core differences between the audiences for the two programs. And now I'm going to hand it over to Jen, my colleague, to explain more about how to participate in these two programs.
Thanks, Audrey. So to participate in either Illinois Solar for All or Illinois Shines, customers have to work with approved vendors who are solar developers and contractors that are registered with one or both programs. Approved vendors are listed on both programs' websites. The approved vendors will submit an on-site or distributed generation solar project to the applicable program, or they'll subscribe a customer to an established community solar project. The approved vendors are vetted and approved by either program administrator, and they agree to comply with the IPA's rigorous consumer protection requirements. It's also important to note that many approved vendors contract with other solar companies, and we refer to those as designees. Designees are entities that work with and on behalf of approved vendors and that have a direct interaction with the end use participants. These include installers, marketing firms, lead generators, and sales organizations. Approved vendors often work with designees to manage various portions of their solar development, and many, if not most, customer interactions are with designees rather than approved vendor in many of our projects. Session 2 of the IPA Summer School for legislators and staff will go more into detail regarding the consumer protection initiatives associated with the solar incentive programs, and it'll be especially useful for constituent inquiries and casework linked to these programs. So I encourage you to stick with us in these presentations. So there are two main types of projects that are affiliated with either of these incentive programs. The first is distributed generation, and this refers to a solar project that is located on site, either on a roof or mounted on the ground, and it's generating electricity that's used directly on site. DG projects are sometimes described as sitting behind a customer's meter, electrical meter. Customers can choose on-site DG solar for many reasons, including energy costs, general environmental benefits of solar, and more. The systems can range from small arrays to serve the electric load of a home or business to large arrays that serve the electric load of an industrial site, a factory, or other large electricity user. The IPA solar incentive programs only focus on solar voltaic projects and PV solar panels that can be installed directly on the roof or land of a given property. The project size is determined based on the property energy usage, which is then generally gleaned from a prospective participant's energy bill. Community solar project refers to a large solar project shared by multiple subscribers in that utility territory who receive credits on their utility bills for their share of the power generated. Community solar allows individuals, businesses, schools, and other customers to access clean solar power when it's impractical or too expensive or just otherwise unfeasible to install solar panels on the property. With community solar, nothing changes about the electricity that's flowing into your house or the utility grid, but the participant is earning monetary credits from the system that offset the cost of the utility bill, of the electric bill. And then the participants through these programs are also supporting the development of clean renewable energy in Illinois that both programs are incentivizing. So there are two community solar types of projects, and I'll just mention those. I don't think we have time to really get into them too much, but there's the traditional community solar projects that can be located or have connections in the subscriber communities. And then we also have community-driven community solar projects that provide more direct and tangible benefits to local communities.
Thanks, Jen. After that overview of the two project types, I'm going to go into the Illinois Shines program in a bit more detail here. So again, all Illinois residents, commercial and industrial customers, and public schools are eligible to participate in Illinois Shines. Your project site, size, financing options, goals, and other considerations can really help you determine what type of project makes the most sense for you between distributed generation and community solar. Next slide, please. I'm going to try to briefly walk us through the application process for distributed generation or on-site solar projects in Illinois Shines. Keep in mind that we do have a resource linked at the bottom that can be used to re-review this later because it is a multi-step process here. So the first step is that the approved vendor will deliver a disclosure form to a customer that outlines the expected costs and savings related to the solar installation. Once that form is reviewed and all disclosures regarding costs are understood, the customer signs the disclosure form, and then the customer can sign a contract for their installation with their approved vendor or installer. After that disclosure form and installation contract are both signed, the approved vendor can then submit what's called a Part 1 application. The Part 1 application contains the specifications for a project before the project's constructed. So installers may prefer to not build a project until they have 100% confidence that a project will receive incentives through either of these two programs. So that's the reason for the two-part application process that you see here. After the Part 1 application is reviewed and approved by the program administrator, the project is sent to the Illinois Commerce Commission. The commission reviews and approves all projects for incentives, and the project cannot move forward in the program without this approval from the commission. After approval for incentives is granted by the Illinois Commerce Commission, the approved vendor signs a contract that ensures that the renewable energy credits, or RECs for short, which we will discuss a little bit later, that the project produces over its time in the program will be delivered to one of the three main electric utilities in the state. In exchange, the project is paid out incentives based on the amount of RECs that it will produce over time. This flow of money is a touch complicated, so I know that Jen's going to spend a bit more time explaining it on a later slide. After the project is approved to receive incentives through the program by the commission, the installer will begin construction on the project. Then once construction is complete, the approved vendor will send the Part 2 application to the program. This application identifies any changes that were made to the project from the Part 1 application and signals to the program that the project is operational and is ready to start invoicing for those incentives. Once that Part 2 application is approved, the contracting utility then pays the approved vendor for the incentives. And after this, the approved vendor is expected to pass along any promised incentive payments or portion of those payments to the customer within a reasonable time frame. Next slide. As Jen noted previously, community solar allows for access to clean solar power when it's more impractical to install solar directly on site. So with community solar, nothing really changes about the electricity flowing into your home or property or business from the utility grid, but you earn monetary credits from the system that offset the cost of your electricity bill. A community solar array is installed off-site from where a customer lives, and a community solar subscription provider will enroll the subscriber in a portion of that larger community solar project that really aligns with the customer's usual electricity usage amount. Once you are subscribed onto a community solar project, that subscriber's electricity bill is credited based on their share of energy being generated by that larger project through a process called net metering. So really, when a subscription is sized properly, a subscriber can really see their electricity costs reduced by subscribing to community solar. One thing to really keep in mind, just like with on-site projects or large purchases of any sort, it's really important to compare costs and contract terms from community solar subscription providers and to consider whether the underlying customer prefers and can enroll in a community-driven community solar project, which is that special type of community solar project that's designed with community input and buy-in, or a more traditional community solar project. Next slide, please. So while the Illinois Shines page provides comprehensive information for prospective customers interested in participating in the program, We know that it can be really helpful to speak to someone live and be able to help navigate customers through the process and all the various considerations to keep in mind when deciding to install solar or to subscribe to a community solar project through this program. So the Illinois Shines Program Administrator can really help prospective customers find approved solar vendors, understand what type of project is that good fit for them, and understand all the financial considerations. There's a lot of contact information on this slide, but really the core thing to keep in mind is we have some general contact information here. And if any constituents have any direct complaints, we do have a complaint line as well. So now I'll turn it back to Jen, who will give a deeper dive into the Illinois Solar for All.
Thanks. So Illinois Solar for All is a state of Illinois solar incentive program that's administered by the IPA, and it's specifically designed so that income eligible homeowners and renters, as well as eligible nonprofit organizations and public facilities can see the benefits from the growing renewable market in Illinois. Among the benefits of Illinois Solar for All, income eligible participants pay no upfront costs for a solar installation or a community solar subscription, and participants will save money on their electric bills. Income eligibility for Illinois Solar for All is if their household is the income eligible household is must be 80% or less of the area median income. And there's an income eligibility tool on the website that can help prospective participants see if they're eligible. Some nonprofits and public facilities are also eligible for Illinois Solar for All, but there are slightly different criteria. Eligible nonprofit organizations and public entities have to be located in either an environmental justice community or an income eligible community that can participate in this program for on-site projects. And we have maps on the Illinois Solar for All website that can help determine if an entity is in one of those eligible areas. The eligible entity has to be a critical service provider. So they have to be providing essential services for income eligible residents in their communities. The projects for nonprofit and public facilities have to be installed on site by qualified, or actually for all Solar for All projects. The projects that are installed, projects must be installed on site by a qualified nonprofit organization or owned by a qualified or occupied by a public entity. And then public entities must own that building, but nonprofits are allowed to rent their buildings. So next slide. So if it sounds like this program, Illinois Solar for All, might be a good fit for customers, the first step is that the prospective customer will want to confirm their eligibility. There are tools on the Illinois Solar for All website that help with that. And if the person finds they are not eligible for Illinois Solar for All, then they can also, of course, check out the options through Illinois Shines. Once eligibility is confirmed, then the next step is for the customer to find a participating solar company. We have a directory on the Illinois Solar for All website of participating companies, and that's filterable to find vendors that are active in their communities. The third thing is that you would plan the project. So the approved solar company would help the prospective customers plan the right project for their purpose, whether it's their residence or their facility. And that project will then be submitted to Illinois Solar for All for review. And then once it goes through that approval process that Audrey described, then it can be installed. For community solar subscriptions, the company will help the prospective customers figure out what the right subscription size is for them and based on their energy usage. And then they can start saving. So it's important to know that for Illinois Solar for All, there's a requirement of at least a 50% savings on the value of the credits that the customers are getting. So with Illinois Solar for All, it really is a wonderful savings once they're participating. Next slide. So again, Illinois Solar for All webpage provides a lot of information to prospective customers that are interested in participating in the program. And then we also have the Illinois Program Administrator, Elevate, who can help walk prospective participants through the process. And so it's a little less intimidating. The program administrator can also help customers get in contact with approved solar vendors, and it can help understand like what project type might be a good fit for them, because obviously there are a lot of challenges with deferred maintenance issues on a lot of our eligible participants' homes. And so community solar might be a better fit for some customers that are interested in participation. So we have a lot of contact information on this slide as well. And you can feel free to direct constituents to the website or the contacts here to get general information for the program, or to connect. We also can do income verification for customers, so they don't have to do that through the approved vendors. So there are some options to for the customer to get assistance in going through the process. Next slide. So we also wanted to go through a few best practices to consider when going solar. So this is not a comprehensive list, and it's just a simple guide to provide a high-level overview of considerations that you want to have regardless of the program or project type. The first thing is that we recommend is, if you're interested in going solar, is that any energy efficiency or electrification upgrades, like changing from gas heat to a heat pump, that you want to make to the home, that should be done before trying to do a solar system, because you want to make sure that any changes to the electric usage of the residence is settled before you're trying to figure out that solar system size. Then I want to make sure that that the participant is asking questions. So for distributed generation projects, some questions might include if there are incentive payments received by the customers and how those incentives are received, who would perform the installation, how long would it take, and so on. For community solar, some of the questions might include how long is the contract term for? Is there any early ending fees? Is there cancellation fees? And will you save money through the community solar bill through the credits that you'll pay in subscription fees? So you want to make sure that the offer is good, and so that you're actually saving money from that offer. Third, you'll want to get multiple bids. We have standardized disclosure forms that participants can compare, so that they can compare offers from different participating approved vendors. And then they'll also want to review the updated consumer protection databases and complaints reports, so they can actually check to see if the approved vendors that they're looking at have any history of complaints. And then if they're unsure, or if there are any questions at any time, they can always reach out to either of our program administrators, whichever program they're working in, and they have staff to help it. So a quick overview of renewable energy credits. Renewable energy credits are the basis of the incentive structure for Illinois Shines and Illinois Solar for All. They're widely used in energy markets, and they represent the environmental value of the energy that's generated by renewables, including solar. And so for a REC, or renewable energy credit, or a REC, the amount of renewable energy sent to the grid is tracked, and then a REC is issued when there is 1 megawatt hour of energy from a renewable source that's produced. And then both programs have set incentive amounts for RECs produced by solar projects participating in each program. And then those incentives are paid to participating approved vendors, and those savings, where promised, are passed along to customers that are made possible from these incentives. And so RECs are, and it's important to note that RECs are not funded through a tax or a grant, but they are primarily, our purchasing of RECs is through these programs, are primarily through a line item on electric bills. So I just want to thank you all so much for joining us today. And with that, I'll turn it back to Whitney.
Thanks so much, everyone. This concludes the recorded portion of today's session. I am going to stop the recording right now.